Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. Today we are talking about Bob Dylan's Together Through Life. This album comes out in 2009, thus completing the 2000s trilogy with Love and Theft and Modern Times. And while like those two albums, there's stuff on here that can be described as blues influenced and jazz influenced, this one feels slightly less just Bob Dylan paying homage to the styles and slightly more about him writing material, having fun, stuff with a slightly more poppy spirit, even though you certainly wouldn't call it pop music. Track one in this record is called Beyond Here Lies Nothing. Lyrically, this continues the theme we've seen on the last couple albums, but it's stated a bit more directly. Again, I feel like there's some concision to this album. Bob Dylan is simpler, more to the point with what he's talking about. Basically, the song says, forever can seem like a long time, but sometimes it's worthwhile to accept that it's a good thing to live with someone forever, to accept that stillness rather than falling in and out of love with people. Now, musically, this sounds like blues, like lots of stuff we've heard on the last couple records, except there's an accordion on here, as there is on a number of tracks. I feel like Bob Dylan tries on this record to use the accordion to add a bit more brightness to his music. And on some of the tracks, it works, on some, it doesn't. Here, it sounds a bit awkward. I can't tell if I like it or not. I like track two a bit better, though. This one is called Life is Hard. And as has been the pattern on these 2000s Bob Dylan albums, first we'll get some blues and then we'll get some jazz. And this is a jazzy one, but there's something about the chorus that just makes it hit a bit harder. You know, I felt like when Bob Dylan did jazz before, I wasn't a big fan of it because it didn't have the fun of a Frank Sinatra or an Ella Fitzgerald. And admittedly, his voice is still bleak here, but that simple chorus of without you near me just gives it that bit of a kick. And lyrically, this one is the other side of the coin of Beyond Here Lies Nothing. So if that song was about trying to accept the idea of being with someone forever, this is about having lost someone and wishing they could be with you forever. Track number three is called My Wife's Hometown. So one of the key features of this song is every song on here except track seven is co-written by Grateful Dead lyricist Robert Hunter. My previous exposure to him was on Bob Dylan's 1988 album, Down in the Groove. So I guess, yeah, 21 years before this one. And while I didn't like Down in the Groove as a whole, the sort of fun moments on the album were the songs that Robert Hunter helped to write, Ugliest Girl in the World and Silvio. Now, I can't say I recognize Hunter's writing style in most of the songs on here, but where it is quite apparent is in My Wife's Hometown, which has a slightly similar, if less mean-spirited feel to it. Ugliest Girl in the World. It's kind of saying my wife is Satan. Track number four is called If You Ever Go to Houston. Now, lyrically, you'd have to have a pretty deep understanding of Dylan to figure out if there's any hidden meaning here, or perhaps understanding of Texas lore, because there's like references to intersections in Houston and places in other cities in Texas. But for the most part, this is just a fun song. Here, the accordion works very well. It just has a nice, catchy kind of sailor's feel to it. Track number five is called The Forgetful Heart. This is one of these songs that's in a minor key, but is kind of bleakly uplifting. I don't know, it has a thump to it. And it's part of the shift of this record from just straight off imitation of classic blues and jazz to being a bit more genre ambiguous. My favorite part of this song was the line at the end, the door is closed forevermore, if indeed there ever was a door. Good little inspirational proverb. Track number six is Jolene. And I love this one partially because I really like the idea of writing songs that use the titles of pre-existing famous songs. This one just has some really catchy guitar playing. I should mention Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers guitarist Mike Campbell is on here, and he's another real MVP on this record. Jolene's not a deep song. It's, Bob Dylan taking full advantage of his gravelly voice to be this sort of bravado cowboy figure, seemingly challenging the husband/boyfriend to a duel for the love of this woman named Jolene. And it has a simple, catchy chorus. Great song. Track number seven is called This Dream of You. I guess this is possibly the most intimate song on here, in that this is Dylan's own lyrics and Robert Hunter is not involved. It has a kind of mariachi feel in the background, which makes it interesting, though I don't know if it quite works for me. The theme on this song is one that dates back to 1989's Oh Mercy. It's the idea of never being able to let go of a lost love. And while as an analyst, I sometimes get frustrated with myself when I keep repeating these themes, I want to find something new in the songs. It makes sense that a singer-songwriter would repeat that theme because, someone who spends their life pining for a love is going to pine for that love many times. So whether Dylan is writing as himself or as a character or whatever, it makes sense that he would write more than one song about this sense of loss. And that feeling of so much time passing is reflected in the excellent lyric, "There's a moment when all old things become new again. That moment might have been here and gone." Track number 8 is called Shake Shake Mama. This is a fun electric blues, good production on it to give it a unique energy. There's some characters thrown in here, Richard Lee or Judge Simpson. Maybe they're real people, but I feel like it's just one of Bob Dylan's writing strategies to throw in the names of people. It gives the lyrics the illusion of having specificity and thus gives them some bite, makes them memorable, even if the names in there are just made up. Track 9 and 10 on this album are really good. I said of Love and Theft that it started really strong and the second half was kind of fine. I felt with Modern Times, he did a bit better at sort of building up towards better material. And with this album, I really think, it just gets better as it goes on. Track 1 is just all right, but most of the rest of the album is pretty good. And these last two songs have a real energy that we haven't heard from anything Bob Dylan in a long time. I feel a change coming on brings in a flair of optimism, and it sounds like a song that could be maybe on Blood of the Tracks with the accordion, playing sort of the role that an organ did back then. We've heard all of these songs on so many Bob Dylan albums yearning about a lost love, whereas this song is about the singer, the character getting starry eyes for someone who it's not clear if they even really know them well. He just has this vision that's inspiring him that something is going to happen between him and this person. There's a line that goes, "We got so much in common. We strive for the same old ends, and I just can't wait for us to become friends." And this is a trap people can fall into. You can become obsessed with a person. You can think you're going to have a connection with them, whether as friends or as lovers, and they may just end up a minor character in your life, and you've got to struggle to get them out of your head. But regardless, I love this moment of optimism that Bob Dylan catches in this song. It's just a nice change of pace. It's a well-written song, true underrated late Bob Dylan career gem. And then finally, this one ends with "It's All Good." And apparently, when Bob Dylan was interviewed about this, he said he wrote the song because he was annoyed with people using the expression "it's all good" so many times. But in the actual song, it feels like a different spin on the song "Ain't Talkin'" that ended his previous album. While "Ain't Talkin'" was about spending your whole life observing all the injustices in the world and coming to realize that you're powerless to do much about them, yet you still end up thinking about them and thinking maybe if you sing enough, you can do something about them. "It's All Good" similarly lists off injustices along with some mundane things, but rather than being troubled or being philosophical about this, it just talks about living your life. At some point, you just have to say, it's all good. Might not be the most morally satisfying song, but that title just slips off the tongue nicely. It gives it a catchiness, gives it a character. So overall, Together Through Life was a pleasant surprise. Maybe it wasn't an album where I listened to it once and instantly had a favorite song on here, but I found it pleasant enough to listen to. And after I listened to it a few times, gradually more and more of the songs became low-key favorites. I feel like I've enjoyed this a bit more than most of the Bob Dylan albums I've listened to in a while. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von Bee. See you next time.